Happy holidays and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey, who's on here. The big stories we're tracking for you in the polity. After offtaking from Dangote Refinery, Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited publishes price list for premium motor spirit across the country. Lagos will buy at 950 naira per litre and Borno State for over 1,000 naira. Citizens react. The Nigerian police doubles down and insists the Edo Security network remains barred from involvement in election security. Says the police has a statutory responsibility. And President Bola Tinubu returns to Abuja after his official visit to China and the United Kingdom. Let's get started with that return of President Bola Tinubu to the nation's capital, Abuja, after his official visits to China and a short stay in the United Kingdom. The president left Abuja for Beijing, China on the 29th, or August the 29th, and started his official visit on Tuesday, September the 2nd. While in China, President Tinubu held bilateral meetings with President Xi Jinping and Chinese Premier Li Qiang, with 5 memorandum of understanding signed between Nigeria and China. He also attended the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation FOCAC in Beijing, and as chairman of ECOWAS, he delivered a paper on global peace, stressing multilateralism and cooperation as essential ingredients for international peace. Moving on now, the convener of the National Peace Committee, Bishop Matthew Kuka, is asking candidates and eligible voters in the September the 21st governorship election in Edo State to carry out their civic responsibility without violence. Bishop Kuka was speaking at a panel, or as a panelist at election issues and peaceful conduct at the Edo Security Town Hall organized by Channels Television and its partner Kimpact Development Initiative at the nation's capital, Abuja.
As far as Edo is concerned, I am very convinced that Edo elections will come, they will pass, they will be peaceful, there may be arguments, and there ought to be arguments. Because the most important thing in political processes is that the more you have these debates, the more people have opportunities to ventilate, the better it is. So my hope is that ordinary Nigerians will learn that these politicians that you see, don't worry about their quarrels, because somehow they will find a way of settling their problems. The important thing that we say to Nigerians is you vote to stay alive.
That's not all that was said at that particular event. The police force says plans are in top gear to ensure a well-secured election in the state. The Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of training and development, Mr. Frank Mba, who was also at the town hall, explains that local vigilantes are not part of the election security and their services are not required during the election.
So in this election, you will see that we're doing both covert and overt deployment. And as I speak to you, undercover operatives are already in Edo. We'll be carrying special operations in Edo. We'll be carrying out raids that are not just indiscriminate, raids that are intelligence-driven, raids that are purpose-oriented, raids that are target-oriented by law, by convention, and by practice. Vigilantes and non-conventional security outfits are never part of the electoral process. Under the Electoral Act, the law clearly states the agencies that can participate in policing the electoral space.
So that was a town hall organized by Channels and its partners as far as the election in Edo State is concerned. Police re-emphasizing their position. Let's move away from election matters to one other issue that concerns everybody in Nigeria. That is the issue of petrol. Let's get you up to speed with that debacle between Dangote Refinery and the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, where the latter has just published a breakdown of how it bought petrol from Dangote Refinery and how it will sell at its retail outlets as a sole off-taker. So that is what you're seeing scrolling on your screen, what they released today according to the NNPCL. According to the NNPCL, is lifting PMS from Dangote Refinery at 809 98 naira 78 kobo per liter, which comes to about 55 cents, 0.55 cents per liter of petrol or PMS, which will bring an estimated pump price in Lagos to 950 naira. Meanwhile, other states in the south may be buying for as much as between 960 to 980 naira per liter of petrol. Citizens will be paying higher, perhaps due to trucking logistics, for about 999 per liter and over 1,000 naira in the north and in places like Borno State. So that's just a map of how the pricing list plays out. But according to a statement by the NNPCL Chief Corporate Communication Officer, and in what appears to be a pricing battle and blame game, it's true to anyone who doubts that it's quoted pricing, while also seeking for discount from the Dangote Refinery, promising to pass on such discounts 100% to the consumers. So that is what we're getting from the NNPCL as far as this issue is concerned. So we're going to be bringing up that slide as much as possible. We saw that release earlier today where they said this is maybe ex-depo, this is how much it came to for us. And when we added our margin, it will get to Lagos at 950, in Borno over 1,000, other places almost 1,000. And NNPC is saying, look, don't blame us for this. This is how much we bought it. If you can talk to Dangote Refinery, if they discount for us, well, we'll also discount for the consumers. So what exactly is going on? But let's get to the streets of Nigeria. Let's get to Makurdi first. Pius Angbo, our correspondent, is standing by to give us a quick update on how people are reacting at fuel stations in that city. Pius.
Thank you, Geoffrey, and welcome to Makurdi. I am here at the NNPC retail outlet in Makurdi here, Kashim Ibrahim Way, Makurdi, and it's heated. People are bustling to get the product. Earlier, you saw people driving against the traffic. The one way they were driving was blocked, so get access into the fuel station here became a problem. But eventually, security men came and cleared up the area, so the traffic is now free. The pump price here is 897 naira 50 kobo. That's what the retail outlet here is selling to motorists. But the tension is that this is about the only dispensing unit. The other mega station out there didn't have product as of yesterday. So every motorist in Makurdi, you'd know, want to come and get at least at 897 naira 50 kobo, because the other independent marketers are selling at 1,200, 1,300 naira per liter. And so the situation in Makurdi is there. The pressure is high. People are shoving themselves. And it's not funny as we are standing here. If you could look at the background from where we are here.
Pius, thank you for your reporting. We needed to get a real-time report as far as this issue is concerned. But my guess is we're going to keep following up to know exactly how things play out later in the day when the product from Dangote gets to that fuel station. Thank you, Pius.
Thank you very much.
Our correspondent Pius Angbo from Makurdi in Benue State. So you can see, it said the product there, 897 naira, if I heard him correctly. At the end of the day, it means, and when Dangote will now, this one that the NNPC has lifted from the Dangote refinery will get there for about 900 and maybe almost 1,000 naira. So does this mean that imported products are less expensive than the one produced right here in Nigeria? That's a big question a lot of people are asking. There's a lot of politics and corporate issues going on around this. We'll break it down when we come back after this break. A professor will join us to break it down for us. Join us again. Welcome back. Professor Wumi Iledare, a professor emeritus in petroleum economics and policy research at the Center for Energy Studies, Louisiana, in the United States, joins us via Zoom. Thanks, Prof, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Prof, let's see how much intervention you can bring to this discourse. I'm sure you've been following the ping pong between the NNPCL and, of course, the Dangote Refinery. I just spoke to our correspondent who is saying the old stock that is being sold before the NNPCL product, the Dangote Refinery product is coming. Now, the stock in Makurdi, as we speak, sells for about 897 naira per liter. but from the release we're getting from the NNPCL, that when this product are being trucked to places like Makurdi, it will go for almost 1,000 naira. So we can say that it means that imported products, petroleum products, are cheaper than the one that is produced at the Dangote refinery. So does it come to you like this war looks like, from analysts that we've spoken to and are looking at, initially it was a quality war between Dangote refinery and NNPCL. It looks like Dangote won that quality war. Now it's a price war. They even said in their statement, it's not our fault. It's what we bought, that's what we're selling. If Dangote refinery can reduce the price, the consumers will get it for a lesser price. How do you characterize what exactly is playing out in the sector?
Well, thank you very much. I think we need to understand the market structure, and that will help us to be able to understand what's going on. We are talking about the wholesale market right now, in which we have two dominant players. We have Dangote as the dominant supplier of PMS, competing with import products. And then we have NNPC, the dominant retailer and dominant buyer of the wholesale market. And they have two ways in which they can get their product: go to import or go to Dangote. To me, and if you look at PIA, I think it's section 206 or so, where they talk about arm's length contract, which is required to be a negotiation. And the PIA is anticipating a willing seller and a willing buyer when it comes to the wholesale market. So let's just practice that. If we are able to open up Dangote to every marketer, the price will fall. But it's going to take time. I just wish I can appeal to Nigeria not to do panic buying and let the market sort itself out. It is a shock that is in the market at this particular moment. And if the Petroleum Authority will play their role as anticipated in the PIA, I think things will fall into pleasant places. I'm not basing my hope on nothing but just the fundamentals of the market. The government cannot continue to enhance market failure. They are supposed to promote a way to ameliorate it. The provisions are there in the PIA. Willing seller, willing buyer. But NNPC cannot be allowed to be the single off-taker. The market will be having what I call absolute barrier to entry, and the price will never be stable. Accessibility will not be promoted. Availability will be delimited, and affordability will become difficult to obtain. So let us allow the proper approach to pricing in an anti-competitive market to work. First, in my opinion, NNPC Limited should not have released this one into the public. They are playing what I call a public sentiment, which has nothing to do with the fundamentals of the market. You are creating more shock and more shock. They made the mistakes since 2021 when they unilaterally increased the price to 500 and then they increased it again to 600. And most of the time, that's where negotiating between NNPC and Dangote should include other marketers. That's the meaning of arm's length negotiation. Independent parties with no relationship.
Prof, there's a lot we want to glean from your expertise. So I want to throw the questions as quickly and as many as possible within the time we have. So another intervention I will need you to help us out with. This is the reality we're facing. I just gave you a practical scenario. They've given their listing, meaning that the North will be buying for between 1,000 and more, and the South will be buying slightly less than that. Right now, the North, like Makurdi, is buying for 897. So they had said, for what is going on now, it's a bilateral monopoly, one buyer, one seller. And they said the reason they have to do that in their initial statement is that the NNPCL will only fully offtake PMS from the Dangote refinery if the market prices of PMS are higher than the pump prices in Nigeria. So the question of, are we still doing under recovery, subsidy, or even shortfall, even in domestic refining, that's the question I would like you to respond to. as quickly as possible while I throw in other questions, sir.
It's not difficult, sir. What is the price of diesel in Maiduguri? AGO. What is the price of PMS? What is the difference between the two? There's nowhere in the world where the price of AGO and the price of PMS is that wide. And that tells you something. And that's where transparency, honesty, integrity comes in. And I call it business ethics. There's no way in which you can be paying that high for AGO and paying that less for PMS and saying there's no subsidy as a commercial entity. No, I don't think the price that you are seeing at the pump at $8.97 is the actual price. Looking at the price of crude today and the price of $1.
All right, Prof, you had said Nigeria.
The price of a liter should be at least $1.
Okay. Prof, like I said, as I said, I want to throw in, I'm going to come back to that issue if we have time. Right now, the fear Nigerians always have is that when prices go up, for whatever reason in Nigeria, it never comes down. This is one place where everybody could afford because it has ripple effect, knock-on effect on other things that helps the average Nigerian to live some level of a fair life. The shock is way too much. From less than 200 naira before President Bola Tinubu to over 1,000 now that is in power due to that twin policy. Looking like the poor people are being rigged out of the system. So when you're saying they should bear, and there's already a bilateral monopoly and all the power game being played out here, should we be worried about the social impact of what is about to happen? Or how do you think Nigeria can respond to this? Because Nigerians don't really believe on promises because the trust quotient is quite low.
Well, listen, this is why you have the National Assembly. This is why the National Assembly should call all the players and put them in front and tell them to raise up their hand and swear an affidavit that they are telling the truth. And then they will probe them. But you have a National Assembly that can really interrogate these players to make sure that consumers are not suffering with producers taking their surpluses away from them. This is when Nigerians should be calling on the Petroleum Authority. It is actually the Petroleum Authority that is supposed to release their own competitive fair market value. Are they doing that? You just play these players that are supposed to be regulated because they are in an anti-competitive market. They are supposed to be guided. They are supposed to be interrogated if you think they are gouging consumers. But then when you fold your hand and you have a dereliction of duty, no revolution will make the price of petrol cheaper. You're just going to be pushing the evil days. To me, I think the price in Nigeria today should be 1,250 naira at the minimum. And now this is where you can then leverage on Dangote, negotiating. You can mandate it. It's an investor. It's an export trade zone. It's not about public sentiment, my friend. It's about value-added, value creation. That should be what is to be driving NNPC Limited as well. But they are playing what I call public sentiment game, both of them. The Petroleum Authority should call them to order and release what they think in an anti-competitive manner.
Prof, as much as it's quite, I don't even know how to process this because this petroleum product backward integration via this substitution that Dangote has brought to the table should be celebrated. But now it looks like we're generating more war from this, what is playing out today. So don't you think that Dangote, to defend himself, also has to bring out how much he sold this for the NNPCL so that we can do compare and contrast here?
Well, my friend, this is a proprietary data. Dangote has competitors. He has so many refineries that are emerging. But you have a provision in PIA that empower the Petroleum Authority to broker the negotiation scheme, assuming NNPC Limited has no relationship with Dangote. Listen, the Yoruba people say Matuwo. You look at some of the problems that you see that is going on, it's a mistake that was made in the past when the PIA was being written. If you go and check the original PIGB, there was no room for this type of conflicts. And you have someone to blame for it, I won't mention them. It is now that it's catching up on them. Because if they've allowed the PIGB as it was written to become the PIA and not dunk it, there will be no problem like this. I'm not saying this out of anything because I know I participated. But let's use what we have. Let the PA, the Petroleum Authority, stand up and exert its authority over Dangote and over NNPC Limited. And then it's a shock. But the shock will die down if they do not inject another shock into the economy. Let the marketers, others, Renault, Ford, all of those other marketers that are importing before, participate in the negotiation framework and the price will fall down. Because the more output Dangote is able to produce, the more efficient it will be and the lower will be the cost. And then, because we're only talking about the wholesale market now, we've not gone to the retail market, which is another issue entirely.
All right, Prof, there's a slide I want you to speak to, because looking at it from a layman's point of view, we're looking at all the elements. If my producer can put up that slide of how the breakdown that NNPCL gave, their breakdown of how, yes, this breakdown, there's a place I want you to speak to. When we looked at it critically, especially the how much they bought the product and the premium, we realized that when they are doing the exchange, I mean the FX exchange rate, for the amount they bought the product, they use 1,620 naira for a dollar. But when it came to the premium, if you do that conversion as to how it landed in the final price that accumulated into what they bought it from Dangote Refinery as maybe ex-depot price, they use about 1,870 naira per dollar. Is there an explanation, or this is industry standard?
No, there's no. I mean, I thought we've done away with dual exchange rate. There's no more dual exchange rate in Nigeria. There's supposed to be only one exchange rate. So one exchange rate is what you are supposed to use for every aspect of your model. You cannot be having one exchange rate in one section and another exchange rate in another section. No. When you have a model, the model should have the same input. Now, you can do a stochastic analysis on an input. In that case, you need to know the distribution. But you cannot be changing exchange rate for different items. Then the model is spurious. The model is spurious.
Because I needed to run that by you because we noticed it. I want to be sure. We had to do the calculation again and say, okay, why are we having a different exchange rate for the cargo, for the product itself, and the premium they paid on the product at the different rate, which is quite higher. But let's move further on this. At the end of the day...
Let me say something. Maybe they are using an average exchange rate, but you have to use it throughout the model. But what they give you is an estimated, based on a model estimation.
Yes.
All of those parameters can still change.
At the very top, they gave us an average. But when you look at the line item and you do the conversion of 0.03 as against other one, you see that there's a difference in terms of the exchange rate, which is, I needed the professionals to speak to that. Ours is to probe those numbers.
You have to use the same input across the board.
Prof, maybe you can look at it later again and see what we're saying. But at the end of the day...
I'll do the calculation.
Yes, do the calculation. One more question before I let you go. As much as we celebrate Dangote Refinery, it's also very concerning for us if we really want to attain energy security, that Dangote Refinery can not only be our source of energy. Look at what is playing out. I don't know how many people want to build refineries. Port Harcourt Refinery, we're hoping it will come upstream. We don't know whether it will come upstream. We have other 3 or 4 refineries that are not working. So what do you say about our hope of energy security, not to even talk about being a net exporter as a country?
Thank you. It's a good question. When you talk of energy security, there are 3 components to it. The fourth component you may not be familiar with. The first one is accessibility. Energy must be made accessible to all. The second one is availability. Energy may be available, but it may not be accessible. The third one is affordability. People must be able to pay for the energy that is available and accessible. And the fourth one is adaptability. This is where technology comes in. This is where energy efficiency comes in. This is where energy conservation comes in. Nigeria is we are too much into what I call resource mindset. The marginal propensity for entitlement is just too much. So there's need for public education so that people can understand that energy is not a public good. It's an economic good. It has to be paid for. Now, regarding us, and this is where I still want you may not agree with me, I want us to celebrate the patriotism on Dangote. Even if you look at the places Putin is refinery, it does not necessarily have to sell to Nigeria.
We do.
Willing. Yes.
I said we do.
Willing. You do. You celebrate him, right?
Nigeria celebrates him.
Yes. I think instead of the government trying to get public sentiment against him, I think it's ridiculous. It is irrational and it's even unbelievable.
All right.
Use the PIA to negotiate with him.
Okay.
You know, there must be information that you are going to get from me.
All right.
And you put your information down. And if I can just conclude, open Dangote Refinery to all marketers.
All right, Prof. We're totally out of time. That's a good place to land it because the question of... My apologies, Prof. We're totally out of time. You made your very strong point, Prof. And that bilateral monopoly is what a lot of people are raising their eyebrows over. But you've spoken, and we're going to get your intervention even more as this develops. It's a developing story. Professor Wumi Iledare, Professor Emeritus in Petroleum Economics and Policy Research, Center for Energy Studies, Louisiana, United States. Thank you, Prof.
Well, I'm back in Nigeria now as the Executive Director of Emmanuel Ebuga Foundation. So
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, that will be noted. That's noted. Thank you, sir.
It's always nice to interact with you. I appreciate your questions.
Thank you. Appreciate that as well. All right, that's it on the program. Thank you so much for your time and company. I'm Jeffrey Uzonga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics. Bye-bye.